Titans and Broncos. A kick off the 4:00 late window slate. Over under here is 41.5 on the lower side. I don't think we've seen a lower one other than that Jets Steelers game so far, which makes some sense. The Broncos are huge favorites here. 7.5 point favorites for the Denver Broncos. Cam Ward's first NFL career game. I think we all agree this is a quarterback upgrade for the Titans. And in my opinion, similar to the Geno Smith one, like I think it's either Geno or Cam Ward as the sneakiest big QB upgrade of the offseason. I also think the upgrade just for George Pickens specifically going from his situation to Dak, but that's obviously one player, not a team like it is here for the Titans and for the Raiders. I think Calvin Ridley, tough week one matchup here for him against Pat Surtain. Really a tough first week for Cam Ward going up against maybe the best defense in the NFL. Like the Broncos are definitely in the running for that. They were arguably right up there at the top 3, maybe number 1 last season. And Pat Surtain like just eliminates players from games. And that's a pretty big concern here in week 1 for the Titans, considering how top heavy the receiving room is. After Ridley, we're looking at Tyler Lockett, the next highest projected. If you scroll down a little bit, I think Imanor is maybe next. Van Jefferson had a decent preseason game. Shamir Dyke didn't really do anything in the preseason. He was picked earlier than Imanor in the NFL draft, but seems to be maybe a little bit behind him. We'll see if Restrepo even makes the team, since I'm pretty sure he went undrafted. Tajay Spears not projected to play week 1 right now, dealing with a high ankle sprain. Tony Pollard, I think you kind of have to start in this game. He projects as a top 15 running back, even in the tough environment. He is, I think, really underrated going into the season right now. Like just an underrated running back in general. 4 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons for Tony Pollard. Like one of the more underappreciated backs in the league. His running mate is out. There's no real legit running back 2 on this team. He gets a huge QB upgrade and he's able to catch passes, so he can't be game scripted out of games. Like just a really high floor, good chance at a touchdown, I think, just in general, with Spears out especially. So yeah, I think you got to start Pollard with the injury for Spears. I think he's a pretty good pick in fantasy drafts right now. He's pretty much the only must start though, I think, on the Titans side of the ball. And then if we go to, I think Ridley is probably going to be locked in as my must bench of the week. And maybe you guys were planning on that one as well. I'm pretty high on Ridley this season too, but I think you probably need to bench him in fantasy up against Pat Surtain in Cam Ward's first game. On the Broncos side of the ball, Bo Nix coming off a really strong rookie season, tons of rushing potential, probably needs to be started if you drafted him as your QB1. RJ Harvey projects ahead of J.K. Dobbins right now. He did start over Dobbins in that last preseason game. Right now, my money would be on the first running back on the field for the Broncos this season is RJ Harvey. And man, that has me extremely, extremely excited. Unlike Travion Henderson, who I was really high on too. Like these guys were getting drafted like right next to each other in drafts like 2 weeks ago. And now there's a 2-round gap between them. Like Harvey might end up being the better value pick between the two. Is just not getting as much steam right now. RJ Harvey reminds me just so much of Bucky Irving in their play styles. And that has me super excited in a Sean Payton offense that just peppers the running backs with targets. I'm not that scared to start him here in week 1. They are pretty big favorites. I think both these running backs are in potential to be startable in fantasy. We have them both as top 28 running backs, both as kind of back-end running back 2s. The fact that they're both going to play definitely had some risk, but yeah, I'm willing to start Harvey. I'm a little bit more nervous to start Dobbins, but Dobbins has been efficient everywhere he's been. I think he will have a real role here as well. Courtland Sutton, you're probably starting him if you drafted him. He didn't make my do not draft list this year. He was on my do not draft list last year, and he actually had a pretty good season. But I think we saw the ceiling for him last year. If you go back to his summary tab, quick, Seth, like think about how well last season's being perceived for Sutton. He was wide receiver 28 in points per game. Like what is the real ceiling for Courtland Sutton? Can he be a top 24 PPR receiver? He was that in the back half of last year, but we've never seen it over the course of a whole season. I'm really excited about Marvin Mims in a potentially expanded role here as well. That's definitely something I'll be watching super closely. And an intriguing guy to make sure, like he shouldn't be on waivers after week 1. I can already picture writing him up as a after week 1 waiver ad, but like he really should be rostered in every league with the expanded preseason role we saw from him. This is a guy that if you go to his summary tab, yards per route run. No, it's right. It's already on the screen. Wide receiver 6 there in yards per route run at 3.2. He didn't play over half the snaps in almost any game last year. And we still saw multiple 20-point games from him. If this guy can get to a 75% snap share, he could be a legit fantasy asset. So excited to see him in an expanded role. Wouldn't start him in week 1 though. And Evan Ingram, he also made my do not draft list this year, just a guy for me. He's not going to win fantasy leagues. Like he's at best a floor play. He's always relied on just super significant volume to produce in fantasy. Literally 2 years ago when he was with the Jaguars, almost broke the all-time tight end reception record, and he still finished as tight end 5 in fantasy, like similar to the Sutton one. What's the real ceiling for this guy? We just saw him almost break the record for receptions. He still didn't even win leagues and finished as a top 4 tight end in fantasy because he doesn't score touchdowns and he doesn't get deep targets down the field. So yeah, if you're looking at me in drafts and you're getting Evan Ingram in round 7 versus I'm getting Brenton Strange in round 13, give me Brenton Strange all day long. Curious what the props are for some of these guys from Avery. I think that's all my thoughts for this game. Broncos smash start here in week 1 defense wise. Probably one of the first defenses taken in most drafts, so I don't have much of them. But they probably should project as the number one defense this week over. I think we saw the Bengals were at 1 versus the Browns earlier, which I'd probably go with the Broncos here. But Avery, want some context with the player prop lines on this game and any other thoughts you have on this game?
Yeah, so we'll start kind of from the bottom and go our way down. Bo Nix is projected for 217 passing yards this week, which isn't an insane amount considering the game total. Yep. But when you look at what we're dealing with, a -7.5 favorite for the Denver Broncos, you're going to expect a lot of rushing work. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey are going to be decent starts here. And Cam Ward, 188 passing yards for this week's projection. Sam, I do agree that if you're going to sit Calvin Ridley, this is probably the week to do it. We were hunting matchups for Pat Surtain last year. Like, whatever wide receiver is playing against him, you are sitting him, even if it is top guys, because of how good of a defender he is. I mean, Defensive Player of the Year says everything you need to know. But when you look down the rest of this offense, I think Courtland Sutton is getting written off a little bit too much. He's going almost outside the top 30 wide receivers in fantasy football drafts. And a lot of people attest that to the fact that his touchdown regression is coming. He did score a ton of touchdowns last year, but people kind of write that off a little bit too much than they should. He's been in the top third, like at the top, I believe, easily top 10 wide receivers in the NFL for red zone targets each of the last 3 years. And Bo Nix throws downfield. He had the second most deep attempts in the league last year. So I think Courtland Sutton's touchdowns are still going to continue to be high. It's happened for 3 consecutive years. His projection is 57.5 receiving yards for this week. I will take that in a high-scoring game. It's a chance that he scores a touchdown as well. But Evan Ingram, though, 37.5 receiving yards projected for this week. Sam, I'm interested to see your opinion on that. And then we have Calvin Ridley at 51.
Yeah, I feel like that just validates what I was saying fantasy-wise. 37.5 yards for a guy that you're kind of reaching for once all the other tight ends are off the board in fantasy drafts. I would just so much rather wait and get a Brenton Strange, who I think could easily compete with that type of yardage. Like even a Kyle Pitts, even an Isaiah Likely, who might not start even the season healthy. Like, these guys to me have higher ceilings than Evan Ingram, and I think that's 37.5 yard line kind of confirms it for me. And I would only ever consider taking him in a PPR league, half PPR, non PPR. I think he's like one of the worst picks in drafts right now. So yeah, I think if you're going to punt tight end, like, just punt it. Don't reach on Evan Ingram. But that kind of validates 37.5. Like, I think it's a fair line. It could easily go under that line. Wouldn't be that crazy. Seth, any other thoughts you got on this game?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley was also my must bench, guys. Nice. I mean, last year I posted a lot of content about this as well. If I just look back at last year, just to remind ourselves of the matchup, DK Metcalf locked. Mike Evans got locked. Garrett Wilson got locked. Jacoby Myers locked. I think Ladd McConkey, we'd have to check, but I would assume he got locked. Like, Pat Surtain was a must sit. It did not matter. Like I was saying, you have to sit Mike Evans, like sit Garrett Wilson. Like, these are guys you have to start every other week when you face Pat Surtain. So that's why you have to sit Calvin Ridley week 1, even though I also love him for the season. I am a Nashville resident, as you called out earlier. I've got my Cam Ward jersey over on the side here. I am so excited for the Titans this year. Went to the preseason game Friday. They looked solid as well. Cam Ward looks amazing. Love the confidence, how calm he is. But this is a trial by fire week 1. And I think it's honestly like my kind of call out for this game. I've got one more after this, but I think there could be a chance that this Denver defense has a nickname by the end of this year. They added one of the best corners in this year's draft as well. And I think there's a real chance that it is just like whatever the opposite of air raid is, it's the no-fly zone. I'm sure somebody probably already has that one, but it's going to be legendary. Like, I'm very excited. As I've talked about, I love the defense. So excited to watch that. But one thing I did want to highlight just right here in the WalterPicks app is this boom bust probability. And this is one of the things I really like to use when I'm making my start sit decisions, because we've got RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, who I think is one of the steals of the draft this year. But when you look at the boom bust graph and the boom bust probability, I think this really shows you how much RJ Harvey should be a start, especially if you're in a smaller league and you're like, oh, should I start Harvey or like another player? Because the boom probability I do think is there against the Titans. They do have some good defensive linemen, which I'm excited about as well for the Titans. But there's a real chance 7.5 point spread that RJ Harvey, they get to show off their new pick. So I'm very excited about that. And I do like the boom probability and the lower bust probability that we have for RJ Harvey. So I just wanted to highlight this. And this is week 2. Sorry. Even more so week 1, higher boom probability, way higher than Dobbins. Bust probability, very low as well. So really excited about what we're going to see week 1 from RJ Harvey. I think it's going to be he's set up completely for success in this game.
Yeah. And Harvey's not a normal rookie. He's 24 years old. Like he's going to be like 27, 28. By the time his contract's out. Like he really might not get to a second really real contract in the NFL, which is a tough situation for him. But for fantasy, like this isn't a wait and see guy. I don't think when it comes to rookies, and running backs just generally I think are a little bit safer as well. And we kind of already got confirmation he's the lead back in preseason too. And he is a capable receiving back as well. So yeah, definitely excited for him. I'm taking the Broncos in this game. Anyone going to be brave and take the Titans in this matchup?
Not that brave.
No, I think the 7.5 is actually a little bit interesting, but I'm still taking the Broncos.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I do think Cam Ward, could really surprise some people in this game, especially given the context of the matchup. If he even looks okay, will be a super positive first game for him. And I'm with you, Seth. I'm excited about this team and the QB upgrade impact here. Something I did note in the draft guide in the WalterPicks app as well. The next afternoon game that I have noted here, the 49ers playing in Seattle. 49ers 2.5 point favorites in Seattle here. We got our tight end 1, our running back 2, and our QB 7 on the 49ers. We also, so the Kittle projects as tight end 1, and that might seem weird to a lot of people. He's getting drafted after Bowers and McBride, who I probably would personally rank ahead of him here in week 1, but Kittle was the tight end 1 last year in points per game. I feel like a lot of people are kind of glossing over that fact. 16.6 points per game among the 3, Bowers, McBride, Kittle. Only one of those guys has been a consistent elite touchdown scorer, and that is George Kittle. And there's no Brandon Ayuk of the bazooka for at least the first 2 months of the season. He is not going to be out there, definitely, in week 1. Juwan Jennings is also a question mark. I actually don't know if we were projecting him in or out. If you scroll down here, Seth, I think based on these projections, we got him at wide receiver 27. This is with Juwan Jennings in. We're projecting Juwan Jennings in, and these are the projections for these other guys. He's a true question mark for week 1 right now as we're recording this. I think there was a report literally just yesterday that he should be back, but it's a calf, so you never know. For a while, it seemed like, Juwan Jennings, he was trying to get a new contract earlier this preseason. And so the calf thing seemed like maybe really more contract related. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like, this is a real calf injury, and the calf injuries are increasingly scary. Like we saw with McCaffrey last year, like we're seeing with Javon Achane right now too. If Juwan Jennings doesn't play, man, Pearsall, McCaffrey, Kittle, these are all smash plays in fantasy, because this is typically a pretty widespread offense. If Ayuk is playing, Juwan Jennings is playing. If both those guys are out, suddenly Pearsall, McCaffrey, and Kittle all look really good. I'm really excited about all these guys. All must starts pretty much. The Seahawks defense is going to be improved, I think, this season. I actually noted them, I think, in the draft guide, because their week 2 and 3 matchups are pretty strong, but you're obviously not going to play them against the 49ers in week 1. Jackson Smith and Jigba definitely needs to be started in all leagues. I honestly not sure you need to start Kenneth Walker, though, in week 1. He projects okay right now. We've had the gap between Kenneth and Sharp much tighter than everywhere else, like all the actual platforms, ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, Underdog, most of the other rankings you see out there. Like we have the gap really close. I don't think it's clear which of these guys you're actually going to want. In fantasy, Kenneth Walker's practiced like a few times this whole preseason. Like he's been battling injuries already this whole preseason. Sharp has not missed a practice, and he's looked great. He looked great last year when he was featured in a role too. I think Zach Sharp is one of the best zero running back targets right now, and just has this like really high ceiling. Last year when Kenneth was down, Sharp projected as a top 10 running back every single week, just locked into this like massive role on this team. So yeah, I think both running backs are pretty sketchy though in week one, since it's a little uncertain. JSN's really the only guy I want to start. Elijah Higgins was a rookie tight end I was kind of excited about when Noah Fant got traded, but it seems like AJ Barner is going to play a ton of snaps. And Elijah Arroyo, excuse me. Elijah Higgins, the former receiver on the Arizona Cardinals that nobody knows about, and now plays tight end. But we would all know about if Trey McBride ever went down. But yeah, Elijah Arroyo, not a guy that should really be rostered, I don't think, in fantasy leagues. We're also projecting Cooper Kupp really low down here. I don't feel great starting him in week one. Like maybe you get a PPR floor out of him. I just not really convinced there's an elite ceiling at this point for Cooper Kupp with what we saw down the stretch last year. JSN, though, for me, he's felt increasingly like I think there's such good picks in round 1 and 2 of drafts. And then round 3, it starts to get a little sketchy, like kind of fast. And JSN, I think, is one of the safest bets in round 3. Just the talent profile that we know he has and the projectable volume with no Metcalf and no Lockett on this team anymore. Just it feels so strong, kind of no matter the quarterback situation. And I do have my concerns about Darnold here. But yeah, give me the 49ers in this one. I'm surprised they're only favored by 2.5. To be honest, I think the Seahawks defense is improved. And people have some hope about the offensive coaching staff, kind of coaching around Darnold a little bit. But yeah, I think I'll take the 49ers in this spot, even in Seattle. Seth, anything to add on this one?
I don't have much to add. I also will take the 49ers. The one thing I will note is that I am excited about Cooper Kupp. I know, Sam, that we definitely have opposite opinions on that. But one of the things I did like about Cooper Kupp, I mean, last year, 14.6 points per game. And he did have some great stretches. And then he was injured a lot of the season as well with a calf or like an ankle injury, lower body injury. I forget which one it was. But this was a pretty impressive stretch of games. I mean, where he's scoring consistently 20-something points. My big concern and why I'm really surprised at the 2.5 line is Sam Darnold. Last year, Geno Smith, we looked at him earlier, Seahawks quarterback, was quarterback 5 in pass attempts per game. Sam Darnold was quarterback 16. So he's used to a little bit more balanced attack than what the Seahawks were running. And I know, Sam, we do agree definitely on this one that Sam Darnold is a scary quarterback outside of Minnesota. He always has been. And I am very surprised, honestly. I think the 49ers are going to be very good again. Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Brock Purdy looks great. Pearsall looks amazing. Even if they are missing some wide receivers, I think the 49ers are going to crush. And yeah, excited. I'm excited to see this game because it's going to show us a lot about what we're going to get from Seattle this year.
Yeah, I didn't go into draft season intending this, but I think Christian McCaffrey is going to end up being one of my most rostered players across all my leagues, just where my draft picks ended up. And man, if he can get a full healthy season, that would be amazing. Every night when I go to sleep, just a quick prayer for his Achilles holding up. But yeah, I agree. A little surprised by this line. Vegas a little bit more optimistic maybe about Seattle than we are. The 49ers run defense was bad last year. So that maybe will bode well for what I think will be a kind of a run heavy Seahawks attack in general. Avery, are you as surprised about this line as us? Anything else to note?
No, I'm not too surprised about this line. If I'm being completely honest, I think it's very fair. My take for who is going to win this matchup, I would have the 49ers taking this, even though they are away at the Seahawks. And it is interesting to see what the split between Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson Jr. is for this game. I don't expect B-Rob to take an insane amount from Christian McCaffrey, really to play too much at all. I think he's more of just the fill-in RB2 role. He is definitely still good. People kind of write him off a little bit too much from what he is on the Commanders. But Christian McCaffrey obviously is going to be a must start. He's already projected in all of the books to have over 70 rushing yards. And obviously the receiving upside he has as well is always going to carry. JSN is a guy that I'm starting in this matchup. Cooper Kupp, I am also worried about. I know we've kind of voiced that in our opinion there. I don't really see how the scheme fits. They're both really good slot wide receivers. So I don't think JSN, again, has a problem moving outside and being successful there. Cooper Kupp, I'm not starting. I wasn't drafting to begin with. And JSN is a guy that is really just the only solidified start on this offense. I think Kenneth Walker is fine, but nothing that's really standing out.
What's the JSN line in week 1 in the running back line too if they're out?
JSN is projected for 64.5 receiving yards, Cooper Kupp at 41.5. And then the rushing yards that we have right here for Kenneth Walker is 59.5 receiving or rushing yards.
Very interesting. Yeah, definitely a strong JSN line in line with what we were saying there. And yeah, to me, we didn't move McCaffrey at all on the Brian Robinson trade. I know some people were curious if we would or not. We did obviously discuss it like we discussed everything on the projections team, and we updated the app within 10 minutes of the trade, which is another huge value of the WalterPicks app this time of year and really all season long. No other place is updating for projections as quickly and efficiently as we are. We're grinding out here, man. Basically from now through the Super Bowl, we will not be missing anything. And yeah, to me, the Brian Robinson trade is just a bigger deal for Guerendo, who's going to win the backup role. I actually don't even think it's for sure going to be Brian Robinson. I think Guerendo was a really good as a rookie. He's just dealt with some injuries. And so some insurance sort of there, since there was nothing behind Guerendo. Jordan Mason, they drafted. Jordan James, they drafted in the NFL draft. He hasn't really made any noise all preseason. And I think this is also kind of a somewhat bad sign for him. But they gave up a 6th round pick for him. Like they didn't give up a lot for Brian Robinson Jr. I'm not even like convinced he's guaranteed to have like a significant role on the team. So yeah, we didn't move McCaffrey at all. Obviously not a receiving back either, so shouldn't eat into the receiving role. There's definitely a chance one of Guerendo or B-Rob, though, does steal some goal line work, and they try to keep McCaffrey a little bit more fresh coming off, obviously, an injured-riddled season. So something to monitor as well. All right, on to the next late window game here, which is the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Definitely a really fun divisional matchup here, right? This is in division, I believe. Is that right?
Yep.
NFC
Lions, North battle.
Yeah, NFC North battle. I'm always bad with the divisions. It always takes me a second to recount who's in what division. But my sense was right there. 49.5 point over under in this game. I think that's the highest.
I think that is definitely the highest so far.
Yeah, the highest we've seen so far. So that's definitely notable for fantasy purposes. The Packers are favored in this game. This game is in Green Bay.
Wow.
1.5 point favorites for the Packers. Definitely a pretty optimistic sign for the Green Bay Packers this season. Lions, one of the best teams last year. They lose Ben Johnson this offseason to the Chicago Bears. A lot of uncertainty about that. I'm not super scared about it. I'm more scared, can they really score as many touchdowns as they did last season? Just an insane touchdown rate from Goff, insane touchdown rates for the running backs as well. But you got to start basically every legit player in this game with this over-under and the two offensive environments here. Yeah, David Montgomery and Gibbs both ranked top 10 on the same team in running back touchdown rate, rushing touchdown rate, like pretty wild. And then on top of that, Goff was, I think, top 5 in the league in passing touchdown rate himself. Like it's just those two things sustaining is extremely unlikely. Let's say QB3 in touchdown rate set over 7%, higher touchdown rate than Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Like it's just not. And Jordan Love is up there too on lower pass volume, though. But yeah, definitely think that will decline year over year. We almost never see. It's almost never do we see guys repeat 7+ touchdown rates. It's like almost impossible unless you're really in the elite of elite QBs, which I don't think Jared Goff is in. But yeah, you're starting all the studs in this game. I don't think there's even too much to discuss there. Both running backs definitely can be started. Jameson Williams, I feel very comfortable starting here as well. Definitely in on Waymo Jamo this season. And then on the Packers side of the ball, probably more start sit difficulty there. The Packers always have spread the ball around a lot. And especially last year, it created real start sit headaches. Part of the reason I really just didn't want to draft any of the receivers this year. And I actually had Matthew Golden pegged for my do not draft list right after the NFL draft for like the next several months, because that's right when I start kind of forming that do not draft list. I got convinced by the rest of the WalterPicks projections team to remove him from that list and inserted someone else instead, especially after the Jaden Reed injury. I still have my doubts, though, about Matthew Golden in comparison to the rest of these rookie receivers. I don't think he really should have been a first-round receiver pick. He never had a 1,000-yard receiver season in college. He did play one less season in college because he was an early declare, so that he has that working in his favor. But he wasn't that productive in college. So why do we expect him to be so productive in the NFL? He does project as the wide receiver 1, though, right out of the gates. I think we're projecting Jayden Reed out right now in week 1, and that's still a little bit up in the air. Yeah, we're not projecting him in. Christian Watson, though, like part of the reason, too, that I was concerned about Golden is like Christian Watson's going to come back in the back half of the season, and Jayden Reed's going to come back. And then suddenly we could be in this like really spread out offense. Again, that also will run the ball. Tucker Kraft is, I think, a pretty good start here, even though the Lions were good against tight ends. Jordan Love ranks as a top 10 QB. I do have him in some of my late round QB builds. Definitely startable here as well. I honestly would prefer not to start Golden here in week 1, but man, the matchup against the Lions, this game environment, if Jayden Reed is really out, you might have to start him. And we're projecting really high here as well. It's been tough for me to wrap my head around the Matthew Golden stuff with the profile as a player, but then the situation seemingly improving by the day. Curious what you guys think in this game. And also curious if you guys are starting Matthew Golden. You can go first, Seth.
Yeah, I think, Sam, I was probably the one person with you on Matthew Golden. I did not draft him at all. You just give up in drafts right now. The players that are going around him, I just much rather take Ricky Pearsall, Igbuka, Stephon Diggs, Jacoby Myers, players in that range. Yeah. So I was with you there. I'm nervous. I think overall for this Packers offense, the receivers need a touchdown to be fantasy viable. I don't think anybody for quite some time has been fantasy viable without scoring a touchdown, and you just can't start them week after week after week. You never know who it's going to be. I am so pumped about Josh Jacobs, though. Man, I think he's one of my must targets in drafts. If you got him, I think you should be pumped because Josh Jacobs is going to crush this season. Really excited about that. And then I am a little bit surprised at the line, but we do have Frank Ragnow gone as well. I think that's a noteworthy loss for the Lions. Their center probably going to the Hall of Fame, or at least legendary at the very least. Excellent player. So that's kind of where I'm at. The only player I'd really like to start in this game on the Packers is Josh Jacobs. And for the Lions, I am a little bit nervous about Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, because there's Isaac Tesla as well. Might talk about him a little bit later, but he is someone that I think has shown up this preseason, and he's someone that continues to make highlights and plays. And if they're going to be sharing among 3 wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Isaac Tesla, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, they're going to need to score 35 points a game for these guys to be consistently returning draft value because they're also expensive. So yeah, I'll save my game pick for the end, but Avery, I'm interested to see what you think about this team as well.
Yeah, I'm really just starting a lot of guys in this matchup. Again, it is a divisional 1, and it's almost a 50-point game total that's projected to be very close. So this is kind of one of those matchups where you start your guys, and it's not like either of the defenses are impossible to create offense against. Amon-Ra is sitting at 67.5 receiving yards, which may seem low considering his season average last year was 77.8.
Right where JSN was at, basically.
Exactly, yeah. And considering that they did lose Ben Johnson and there's a bit of a different offensive scheme expected to come again without Frank Ragnow as well, I think they should lean a little bit more run heavy. You have Jameson Williams at 52.5 receiving yards, Sam Laporta at 43.5, and then we also have Jahmyr Gibbs at 23.5. So there is going to be a lot of offense generated when you look at the running backs. Seth, Josh Jacobs is a guy that is projected to do well, 72.5 rushing yards this week. And then Gibbs as well at 70, David Montgomery at 41.5. So most of these guys are pretty much a start for me. I like Jameson Williams with his downfield ability, again, with the high game total. His touchdown upside is on the higher side there. I'm not a guy to take touchdown lines as far as projections and player props go, but I like pretty much everyone in this offense. David Montgomery is a bit of a risky start just because he needs that touchdown if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get everything else. But I agree with what you guys said as well.
How about Matthew Golden on the Packers side? Are you comfortable starting him week 1? We got him projected pretty high right now with Jayden Reed out.
I think Matthew Golden is a guy that I will be starting for the rest of the season. He's going to be a confident flex for me as well. He doesn't have any lines up yet, which could be a testament to what his projections really are for this game in the season. But he is a guy probably not confident. He has a high risk level because this team loves to pass the ball to literally everybody. But he is a guy I'm taking the risk on.
Yeah, he's probably not out too with the Jayden Reed uncertainty. I think still maybe he'll play week 1, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm going to take, God, I can't believe the Packers are favored in this game. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. I do think the Lions defense is getting a little underrated heading into the season as well, because they were so bad last year, but their whole defense was injured. Like, it wasn't like the Bengals where their defense was just that bad. It was literally 9 of the 11 starters were injured for like the back half of the season. And they, even some of the backups starting getting injured, it was, they just had no chance playing all those backups. So I think the defense will be improved. This game is in Green Bay, which is, I think, the only reason the Packers are favored. Remember, home field is worth like 2.5, 3 points. So the Lions, based on this line, would be favored at home. But yeah, I'm taking the Detroit Lions in this spot, even though I do think they'll regress a little bit in the touchdown column. Seth, who you got in this one?
I'm going to go with the home team and take the Packers. I've kind of been a Lions hater over the past few seasons, so I will admit that. But I do think they regress quite a bit this year. I think they score a lot less points. I think Ben Johnson was a huge part of the offense. I think they had, and you look at a couple games where if the Lions ever got behind, man, they struggled a lot more. Jared Goff started to look like a liability when the Lions got behind. Now, it didn't happen often, but with Josh Jacobs, I just see him as a one-man army that there were games last year where he just dominated. So I'm going to go with the fresh legs of Josh Jacobs and the Packers at home and take them week 1.
Avery?
I'm going with the Lions on this one.
2 versus 1, Lions versus Packers. We're going with the underdog, Avery and I here, but it should be a really close and fun one. We got one more game in the late window, then we got the 2 primetime games, and then we'll be wrapping up our first game-by-game breakdown. First of 18 game-by-game breakdowns we're going to be doing this season. Texans versus the Rams is this next late window game. Rams are 2.5-point favorites in this one at home. I honestly think of all teams in the NFL, the Rams might have the least true home field advantage in the league. I've been to this stadium, them and the Chargers, like they just don't really have like a true fan base. I think the Rams even more so because of both them moving from previous destinations. So I'm always more skeptical about their home field advantages. They also play in a dome, which is just like so nice for the opposing team, like really friendly environment to go into as an opposing team. I also went there when the Chiefs played and the Chiefs fans travel. So it felt like a Chiefs game. So that maybe skews my opinion there a little bit. Nonetheless, this game 44.5-point over under. We got Nico projected as wide receiver 3 right now. Definitely could be the number 1 overall wide receiver in fantasy when it's all said and done. We've seen him do that for stretches last year, especially when Tank was out. I'm really curious to see how the rest of this receiver room breaks down, though, right out of the gates in week 1. We expect it to be Christian Kirk as the number 2 receiver, just based on what we've seen the coaches say this preseason and how we've seen the preseason usage play out. But the running back situation here is also just super, super curious. We've gotten not a single Joe Mixon update for the last really month plus at this point. There's been a lot of rumors circulating, but there's been no substantial like news. Yeah, this says 6 days ago, but like the report here is so-and-so thinks. Like there's no actual like real report about Joe Mixon really since like they said he's got a significant foot, maybe ankle injury also. He's expected to miss extended time, and we're going to reevaluate closer to the season. That was like the last real report. That was 4 weeks ago. As of this recording, we should be getting to that point now where, okay, what's the reevaluation? I think they're like, if it's not Tyreek Hill, Joe Mixon has the widest range of outcomes of like all players, where he could play week 1 still. It seems unlikely at this point, but like he could play week 1 because we don't really know. He also could miss the whole season. Like that is such a wide range of outcomes that, you know, I don't think any of us have been drafting him. I'm always still pretty surprised how early he's still getting picked in drafts. It feels like not many people realize that he might not play this season is in his range of outcomes still, which is not what you want to be spending a fantasy pick on, especially at 29 years old. But this is the least talented offensive line in the league with Nick Chubb at running back. I just don't think they're going to be able to run at all, which is even more reason to be bullish on Nico. And I think Stroud a little bit too. If you think back 1 year ago to today, CJ Stroud was getting picked as like QB6, QB7 guys in fantasy drafts. And now he's going as like QB17, QB18, QB19 in drafts. Feels like one of these guys that is just such a massive discount this year, and people are overreacting a little bit from one bad season. So I think he is being slept on a bit, kind of an interesting week 1 sleeper. But yeah, it's basically Nico and no one else in this game. You could risk it with Christian Kirk. That wouldn't be the worst flex option. But then on the other side of the ball with the Rams, I'm nervous to see Matthew Stafford take his first hit. It seems like he's definitely going to be out there week 1, and he's going to be playing through this back injury. But how well is he going to be able to really sustain the hits this season, I think is the question. He just started practicing a few days ago as of this recording. Luckily, the Rams, I think, have one of the better backup QB situations in the league with the corpse of Jimmy G backing up Matthew Stafford. But Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, both these guys just absolutely need to be started here in week 1. And you got to start Kyren Williams in week 1 as well. Kyren, another sort of risky name I had on my do not draft list. He's just not the type of player I like drafting in fantasy. The guy that he doesn't have the true league winning ceiling you're getting from some of the other running backs, even guys like Trevion Henderson and Omarin Hampton. He is a completely volume dependent, non-explosive running back. He's been a really good touchdown scorer, to his credit, 3rd in touchdowns last season. I do think, though, Blake Corum has a slightly bigger role this year. I worry as the season goes on, Jarquez Hunter will mix in a little bit more, and Kyren Williams led the NFL in carries last year. I'm not convinced he's going to do that again here this season. So not the type of bet I like to make in fantasy. More of just like a high floor volume play than a high ceiling league winning play, in my opinion. But if you drafted him, obviously you're starting him here in week 1. The Rams, similar to some of these other teams we talked about, like just really straightforward for fantasy. You're starting these 3 guys and you can't start anyone else. I think that pretty much sums it up well. Anything else to note here, Seth, in this matchup?
I am shocked at the line, to be honest. 2.5. I think that's crazy. I really believe last year, and I still believe, that if the Rams played the Eagles in LA, the Rams would have won that game. I think the Rams were so hot going into the playoffs. They were looking unstoppable. And then they run into literally the worst possible weather for this team, going to the snow, slippery snow, versus the Eagles offensive line and Saquon Barkley. It was just a disaster. That's why you got to win your regular season games, people. You got that was advantage to the Eagles, and they won the Super Bowl. Obviously an amazing team as well. I'm shocked by the line. That's all I'll say about this game. I think the Rams, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams won by 14. I just think they're so much better. Devonta Adams is going to crush. I drafted him everywhere I could. So I'm just surprised, to be honest, that Vegas has this so close.
Avery, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I'm with Seth that I'm taking the Rams in this matchup. It's hard to win when you don't have a run game, when you don't have an offensive line to back that up either. It's going to be the Nico Collins and CJ Stroud show, which I think is a good show to watch for fantasy football at least. CJ Stroud has been going undrafted in almost every single fantasy football draft I have done this year. And I think that's a little bit crazy. He's not going to be a top 10 must-start quarterback, but undrafted, if you went late quarterback and you need some guys to fill in, CJ Stroud is that guy. And you look at the lines, Nico Collins is projected for almost 80 receiving yards at 78.5. No one else is really back there. It's Christian Kirk at 35, and then nobody else is on the books yet. And you look at the Rams here for their receivers. Puka Nacua is at 73.5. And Seth, Devontae Adams is at 57.5 receiving yards. How do you feel about that?
I'm smash the over. He's going to crush. I just don't hold on. Let's just take a look in the WalterPicks app. Just look at what he did last season. This is incredible. This is how he 109, 198, 68, 88. He was under, what was that, 57?
Yeah, 57.5.
I mean, you look at the end of the season, he was barely under that once he got a decent quarterback. He even hit that twice with the Raiders. I just think with Matt Stafford, it's a crush, especially against Houston, I guess, unless they get way ahead. But I like that line for sure for Adams.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It seems like a good line. 6 of his last 7 games, he beat that. I do want to note though that end of last season, it just felt, it was crazy. The Rodgers-Adams connection, every week you just bank on just so many Devontae Adams targets. It felt like, Rodgers knew it might be the last stretch of his career, and he was just peppering Adams, but Stafford has historically peppered his top receivers with targets too. And who knows how many Stafford games we really get to with the back stuff. I mentioned being a little bit concerned about, but I agree. Adams is a smash here in week 1, and that line's honestly a little surprising. I think by the time the game kicks off, that line will be at least in the 60s.
Yeah. I think 63 will be probably a good spot for it to land.
And it is really interesting because he's minus 104 for 6+ receptions for the week. So I think 57.5 is easy there. And that line is even, I think it'll go higher. He averaged 75.5 receiving yards last year with Adams playing alongside Garrett Wilson. And now you get a possible better fantasy wide receiver supporting quarterback in Stafford if he is healthy. So Devontae Adams is a start for me as well. And then you look at the rushing here. Kyren Williams is projected for 73.5, only 9 receiving yards, which isn't crazy because Kyren Williams just is not a receiving running back. The Rams were dead last in targets to the running backs the last 2 years. So that's not too crazy. So you're going to hope for a touchdown from Kyren.
I am going to take the Rams in this game as well. The only other quick things I want to note, just a couple of rookies in this game that I'll be watching closely. Terrence Ferguson, really highly touted rookie tight end that Sean McVay himself compared to Travis Kelce shortly after the draft. Really young prospect. I don't think he's going to play ahead of Tyler Higbee immediately, but this is an exciting prospect here for sure. That I'm curious if the early season role is good. Like the arrow is pointing way up in the sky in terms of his career outlook, especially for dynasty. But if you just go into Tyler Higbee's game logs quick, I think he's also just kind of being slept on a little bit in fantasy. He didn't play all last season, and then he comes back 3 straight legit games down the stretch. In that game against the Eagles, he was like their leading receiver, one of their leading receivers, 7 catches, 54 and a TD, went over 10 points. All 3 of his last 3 games. He only played 5 games in all of last season. So I think he might be getting a little underrated too if he ends up being the primary tight end on the Texans side of the ball. Like, what's the role for Woody Marks? Damian Pierce has been getting some steam behind Nick Chubb. Is Woody Marks really going to have like a legit role, or is he going to be buried behind Damian Pierce and Nick Chubb? And if he is, I think it's a pretty bad sign for Woody Marks and like his potential ceiling for fantasy, because he's a little bit more of a scat back, receiving back type, where he is a capable receiver. He did have some solid rushing seasons in college, but it's unclear if people view him that way or if the Texans view him that way in the NFL, based on the praise we're seeing for Pierce and Chubb's seemingly starter role without Mixon. I'll be out on Woody Marks, I think, pretty fast if we see him play behind both Pierce and Nick Chubb in week 1, because even if there's multiple injuries, he might just be sort of pegged into this third down scat back, Nyheim Hines sort of a type role that just can't really win fantasy leagues. All right, on to the next primetime game. We already talked about 2 primetime games on Thursday and Friday, but the Sunday night game, I think you got to say this is the best game of the week. I cannot wait for this one. I keep thinking back to the opening night game from last year between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and they put Lamar on primetime, of course, again here in week 1 of this season, but this time on Sunday Night Football versus the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. This game, highest over under the week by far, only game over 50 points, 51.5. You ask me, I'm taking the over on that, even though it's 2 run first teams as well. I mean, these 2 quarterbacks are going to go crazy in this game. It could be an environment like we saw last time in week 1 for Lamar, where both Allen and Lamar, like, they're going to treat this like a playoff game and run a lot more than we'll usually even see from them in season. And both these guys run a ton in season 2, but we always see down the stretch of the season, Allen goes crazy rushing the ball. Like, his rush share always goes up. If you just pull up week 1 from Lamar last season, Seth, I mean, Lamar Jackson was treating that like the Super Bowl last season in week 1. He had 122 rushing yards week 1 last season. If you just scroll a little bit to the right, I think he had like 15 or 16 rushing attempts for Lamar in week 1. Last year, 50% of the carries. Like, we could see some crazy rushing and just a really, really exciting environment here for both Allen and Lamar. But really excited for both those guys. Obviously, we're starting them in fantasy, so don't need to belabor that point much more. But, going to be a super exciting game, of course. Mark Andrews projects as a top 5 tight end right now because Isaiah Likely is projected out. And that's a huge, huge deal for Mark Andrews. He's going to be on the field basically every single snap. I think we're projecting out Likely out right now. Is that incorrect with the projections?
Yeah, it should be out. And we have this note from 3 weeks ago, Likely expected to miss 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's looking like he's going to be out. And we have Isaiah Likely tight end 24. So
yeah,
I'll do a quick compare, but
we'll get that updated for sure. I think Andrew's projection might have him out, and you just scroll back to week 1 here.
Yep.
And that'll only boost Andrew's projection even more with likely out, Andrew scored so many touchdowns last year. You got to feel pretty good about his potential to score a TD in this game. Zay Flowers, I think, is a must start as well in this massive over-under game where they're going to have to try to keep up with the Bills' offense. Projects as wide receiver 30, but I feel pretty comfortable starting him. Honestly, like Zay Flowers versus Tet McMillan, Zay Flowers versus Travis Hunter. These are maybe some of the tougher start decisions of the week. I like Travis Hunter a lot in week 1. I honestly think I still might go Hunter in that spot, but Flowers is the safer option, I think, pretty clearly there. On the Bills side of the ball, James Cook has to be started. His contract dispute is now in the past. He projects as running back 23 for us right now, a little bit behind where I would expect. I think he'll probably be a little bit higher than that when it's all said and done, though we are like lower still on James Cook season long. Touchdown rate doesn't seem very sustainable. He only got about half the backfield last year, and Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, I think, will still mix in, obviously Allen involved as well. The Bills are like similar to the Packers, just a little bit tough from a receiver standpoint because they spread the ball around so much. I think, though, one of the most overlooked guys this whole draft season and one of my favorite sleepers heading into the season is Keon Coleman. If you just think about Keon Coleman in comparison to Ricky Pearsall is getting steamed up so much. We got him projected as wide receiver 19 in week 1 right now. Both these guys didn't do a ton as rookies. Obviously, there's a lot of context for Pearsall getting shot before the season and coming back late. But Keon Coleman, like, he started to break out. If you go to his game logs, had his first breakout game and like back-to-back breakout games, 125 yards on 4 catches, then 70 yards and a touchdown. Then he got hurt the next game and didn't come back until week 15 and then sort of didn't do much from there. But a year 2 guy tethered to Josh Allen. Khalil Shakir has been dealing with injuries. He's like 7 rounds cheaper than Ricky Pearsall. Like kind of a similar storyline of year 2 guy, better quarterback that he's attached to. He was not being played in the slot like he sort of excelled in college. I don't know if that's going to change unless Khalil Shakir misses some time or isn't 100%, but still a tough start week 1. All of these receivers are pretty tough starts despite the game environment. Like, it's really just Josh Allen, James Cook that you can really trust here, in my opinion, despite the high total, which is why all these Bills guys are kind of tough. Outside of best ball, Seth, anything to add that I missed here?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that this is the MVP battle potentially on display here. Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. And we know I was a Lamar Jackson fan, big fan of Lamar Jackson myself, and a little bit of a Bills hater. So again, I'll put that context up front. But the head-to-head does matter in the MVP race. I think same for Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson last year, week 1. That's a little extra incentive, I think, with it being the primetime game. Everybody's going to watch it, and you have the head-to-head that people like to bring up. So I do want to throw that extra excitement. I mean, I'm really excited about that for week 1. I do agree this is the game of the week. And I thought you were going to mention Josh Palmer, honestly, instead of Keon Coleman. He's the guy that I think is actually decently interesting. He hasn't really stood out too much, but I do think that he could be a good target as well for Josh Allen. I do think all the Bills receivers could be someone that way I look at them is, hey, it's a good person to have on your roster when some of your players are out on bye week, when some of your players are injured, that you can get essentially for free right now, because this offense scores a lot of points and you could definitely, get a little bit lucky with, 4 catches, 40 yards and a touchdown a random week. So I just want to highlight that these guys are definitely in my fantasy football strategy throughout the season, even though I'm not prioritizing drafting them right now. You
taking Bills or Ravens in this one, Seth?
Oh, I will take, that's really tough. I am going to take the Ravens because I am a Bills hater, but also because it's in Buffalo, but we're talking, this is the best time of year to play in Buffalo. Come on, right? We're talking early September. If it's a little chilly, even better. These guys have been working out in the heat all summer long. It's been a hot summer. So at a Sunday night game, they're going to be feeling energized and fresh. Lamar Jackson is healthy. I mean, he's supposed to be healthy at least. Derrick Henry is healthy and fresh. And I just don't know how you're going to stop them. So I'm going to go with the Ravens.
The Ravens had historically one of the best offenses of all time. Last season, I think, like pretty clearly, Lamar Jackson had a better season, basically across the board, than Josh Allen. I got beef with the MVP, like just in general, like the MVP being a big thing. Just it's always also so backweighted to how people perform at the end of the season that like I even disagree with you a little bit that this game even matters much for MVP voting, because if Lamar or Allen just suddenly goes off in the last month, it's like that's all anyone remembers. And just the voter fatigue is it's just frustrating. I think with the like clearly Lamar should have won MVP last year. I don't think it was really close from a statistical standpoint, which is how I think the voting should really work. And remove both these guys from their teams, and both teams are absolute trash. If you want to use that argument too. So yeah, I think I got some beef with just how MVP works in general. I don't put much stock in it at this point. But Avery, you taking the Bills or the Ravens in this one? Anything else to add?
Yeah, there's a few interesting points that I do want to bring up. But as far as the game and who I think is going to win, I am a Commanders fan, and the Ravens are pretty close geographically. Without that being a factor, I think they do take this one at Buffalo. Like Seth said, this is the time to play them. It's not cold yet, so if you're going to bank on that, this is the time for it. And something I want to point out, too, is the anytime touchdown projections. I know Seth is a public hater of anytime touchdowns, but you look at James Cook, minus 110 to score a touchdown, and he is the touchdown king. I believe 17 last year in a game that has a 51 game totals. It's pretty good.
I think him and Henry maybe tied for first last year, if I recall, in touchdowns. I know Josh Jacobs, Henry was just behind him in touchdowns per game.
Yeah, per game.
Yeah, but maybe, yeah, that makes sense. Did James Cook miss a game last year? He might have, maybe not. Yeah, he did. It looks like week 6. So yeah, I think total touchdowns, they were probably the same. I'm taking the Bills here at home versus the Ravens. To me, this is like a pretty clear toss-up. I'll take the home team for that reason. And yeah, I agree with Seth. One of the easier times to play in Buffalo, but man, it is not an easy stadium to play in nonetheless. Definitely one of the best NFL fan bases that is out there. So I do think there's a real home field advantage there. I'll give the nod to the Bills. We got one game left